Right. Our last topic will be about review DBMS end user tools. Whenever you hear the word end user, think of yourself. End users are people like you and me, the people who actually use these particular systems. So, end users for computers are you and me, end users for phones are you and me, and so forth. So, don't let it ever confuse you. End user databases consist of data developed by individual end users. Examples of these are collections of documents, spreadsheets, presentations, multimedia, and other files. Several products exist to support such databases. Some of them are much simpler than full-fledged DBMSs with more elementary DBMS functionality. So what we're just trying to say here is that remember my example of my Excel spreadsheet over here. We might actually realize that we've got many different trainings taking over all over the country about the same program. And we have got many different registers and many different trainers and many different venues and so forth. But us as an organization would like to have order over that because we might actually have some verification meetings like what we had with MICT. And then we want to make sure all this information is collated and put in one place so that when they have a meeting with us, they understand where we fall and what is happening. So that's where we actually have what we call end user databases. So we are literally collecting all these particular things made by the users themselves and making a database out of them. Of course, it won't be as easy to use and as functional as the databases we just looked at, like your relational databases, but still you get the point. Now we've got a place where we get the registers, we've got a place where we get all the IDs, a place where we get all these things. This can really make our life easier, especially for reporting purposes and also for us to propose new ideas and so forth. There are many examples of how we can actually do that. For example, we've got what is called a federated database system, which comprises several distinct databases, each with its own DBMS. It is handled as a single database by a federated database management system, which transparently integrates multiple autonomous databases together. So, for example, I'm storing all this information in my own folders here. This is how we can easily put this into perspective. When I send it to my management, they will put it in a folder called Evans database. In Evans database, there are many different databases. A list of my students, a list of the presence and absence, a list, whatever you might think of. Once we have got all that put into all those lists and everything, that's my database being put in a database of someone else. That particular big database is then the federated database. You can think of this coming from federal meaning like the government, the governing body, you see. So that particular database is then the one that is governing all these smaller databases and making sure that we get all the information that we particularly need. There are many other different ways that these particular databases could be put into place. Why I'm skipping through them is that half of them we never really use them anymore because of the access to information technology. Now we easily just use our relational databases and so forth with all these tools that are available to us. But you can go through them and don't hesitate to get in touch if things don't really make sense here. There are many other things. There's something that I really wanted to mention before we close this particular course, which is visual database tools. So when we say then visual database tools, we can actually now form an interface with buttons where we can just click and be able to return certain information. Just like in my example saying I would send my own database with my information about my students to my management, and they receive hundreds other databases from hundreds other trainers across the country. And inside these particular databases are other databases which are information about the students, the marks, and so forth. All those things can then be put together, and you can actually have a visual representation of that where we can just click and say databases from Johannesburg. They need to show all the Johannesburg ones. from events from this day to this day and so forth. And all this can really then help you to be able to go straight into your information. And to do this, you actually use what is called scripting. You're actually programming. So you program using what is called SQL, for example, that is your structured query language that can be used actually to give a visual representation of the stuff that you would like to view at any particular point in time. Now that will make it easier for you. Instead of having to search physically on your computer, you could just be clicking buttons and be able to interact with your data that exists on your computer. So that's the visual aspect of moving from the data that you would have made as an end user to actually having that data being access to using a program. And that program can be written in SQL. If we're doing some programming, we could have done some examples of this, but hopefully we'll be able to do it in other courses in the future. This has been it about this particular topic. Let's meet each other on the next topic coming soon. If ever you have any question over this, as I told you, you're free to send me messages like what you normally do. Call me if you want to discuss or even suggest that I explain further. I will be glad to do so. Thank you so much. I hope you learned a lot. See you on the next module.